Welcome back to the OG Rivals podcast. I am one of your hosts, Miles Teddick. I am the obvious Packers fan here. If you're watching, you can see the jersey that I have on. This is my favorite Bears killer, Randall Cobb. And I am joined by Sir Miguel Prado. Unfortunately, he's got to take the L this week. How's it going,
Hey,
sir?
good, sir. Good to be back on the podcast and good to be back with our listeners. I am repping Chicago, rain or shine. So if you are tuning in, you're seeing one of my favorite Urlacher jerseys here. Time is flying. We're going into week 3
It's wild.
of the NFL season. Miles, one thing you and I have chatted about on this podcast often is getting a good understanding of your football team by week 4. I think we're starting to understand a little bit of underreaction, overreactions along the way of really who these teams are, who our teams are. And I think that there's a lot of meat on the bone to pick through this podcast episode.
Oh, I think so too, and I'll enjoy the W, but there's certainly no shortage of things that could have gone the Bears' way and made that game a lot closer. So we'll get into all of that,
Yeah.
but we'll start off by saying this episode of the podcast is brought to you guys by Life Leaf Remedies. We are passionate about making y'all or helping y'all feel better today. So here at Life Leaf Remedies, we are making effective natural remedies by combining cannabinoids like CBD, CBDA, CBG, CBN, and a lot more with natural vitamins, minerals, and fungi. Shout out to the mushrooms. And we are here to help you take better care of yourself and your family with natural remedies. So check us out at lifeleafremedies.com today. Get free shipping and 10% off your order when you subscribe to any of our natural remedies. We want to help y'all feel better today. So, hey, Miguel, if we got folks enjoying this thing, I believe they have an obligation right now. Could you help them out with that?
Yeah, we're obligating you. We're obligating you.
Yeah.
If you like the podcast, you like the OG Rivals, spike that like button, leave us a comment, subscribe, and talk about us at your next tailgate. And speaking of football and our records, I want to go on the record, Miles, and let our listeners know that I reached out to you and congratulated you Sunday night. Um,
You
and
did.
and I think that speaks volumes to the respect that you and I have as friends, but also the respect that we have for this rivalry, right? I mean, there's no love lost in between the lines and in between the whistles. But ultimately, I think you and I said it last episode. You just want to come out of the game healthy, and we have a whole season to compete.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think there's a lot that was left on the field. Definitely no love lost between the players, but the organizations are storied. The history between the organizations. I mean, it was the 205th meeting of the two clubs.
And 104 victories, I believe, for the good guys. But no, and I gotta say, I'm not a fan of these early season divisional matchups. I don't like getting the Vikings week 1 or even the Bears week 2. To be honest with you, like I'd much rather have some time to work these kinks out against other divisions and even AFC teams. But we don't get to control that. The NFL they've decided what's best for their revenue. But you're right. We got to look at this like, hey, we're almost a quarter of the way through the season, right? That fourth game kind of, well, it used to represent an exact quarter. Now we got 17 games, but close enough. And when you're a quarter of the way through something, you probably have a flavor for what's going on. So, sir, why don't you get us kicked off here? Tell us what happened in that game and did the Bears? Why were they not able to pull it out?
Well, I want to call a spade, and I think you and our loyal listeners by this point, I like to think that you and them think that I am level headed. And I want to call a spade here and just say that Justin Fields has to carry some of the not necessarily blame, finger pointing, right? But he has to come out and play better. 100%. That's where I want to go immediately. is the quarterback position, which is one of the best, not one of the best, one of the most important positions for the flow of the game. And like I said, call a spade a spade. From the 40 yards of his passing yards out of not a lot were off a flea flicker, where he had Darnell Mooney streaking towards the end zone almost wide open, and he hits Equanimous St. Brown for 38 yards. Then the rest of the game, I mean, they're just dinking and dunking the ball downfield. I know Luke Getsy's getting a lot of heat because of the lack of passing, which obviously a lot of us would want to see more. But he's coming out and saying, "Hey guys, I'm calling these plays situationally. I did give Justin. I called about 22 pass plays, and out of those 22, 11 ended up being passes. The rest were that run play option where Justin has the ability to, hey, if I'm seeing a good running lane here, I can check down into that run and give David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert the ball." And we saw that. And I think that the game situationally also, it was that type of game. It's a divisional game. And you and I talked about it, right? With our score predictions. What type of game do you think it's going to be? Definitely not an AFC West type shootout. Black and blue division, black and blue game. And that's where I wanted to start, Miles, is just, making sure that I'm being true to myself, keeping my side of the street clean. If Justin Fields is the the quarterback that I keep saying that he is, and a lot of people keep saying that he is, he needs to come out and have a better game. Can he and should he shake this one off? 100%. 100% needs to shake this one off. Think of Josh Allen, year 2, right? Like, you're going to have these growing moments. Let's not lose sight of, right? If we're talking about being level-headed, let's not lose sight of first year in the system with Eberflus, with Luke Getsy, new offensive line, a lot of new faces running the system. So I don't want to get too high on the highs or low on the lows, but that's definitely where I'm looking first is on the quarterback.
Yeah, man, I can't disagree with you there. And I think one thing that, as an objective observer, fan of football, and someone who sees Justin Fields developing, you expect him, you don't question whether he knows the importance of the game, right? The rivalry. He seems to have acknowledged that he knows that, right? And I think, obviously having to watch the other guy on your own field say, "I own you," and really not be able to do anything about it. And if I'm a Bears fan, I want you watching that on repeat all week this week. If you're tired, I want you to start seeing the other quarterback talk about owning you. Like, and not to say he was tired or anything like that, or didn't come out fired up, but to your point, you want to see more of a competitive fire from him in that game. And it really, I didn't see it. I saw a guy who was trying maybe to not make too many mistakes. And, Packers fans can certainly relate to the idea of, not playing to not lose, right? Instead of playing to win. McCarthy did that to us for a long time. He'd get a lead and then play to not lose, and he'd freaking lose. And so I think that as a young man, and he seems like somebody who doesn't want to make mistakes. And you can commend him for that, right? And I think that Aaron Rodgers has that kind of a quality when you look at his interceptions and how many he hasn't thrown. A lot of people for a lot of years criticized him for holding the ball too long and caring too much about interceptions and not making a better decision to throw the ball out of bounds or doing something else with it. So you want to see Justin Fields, I think, start to, we talk about it, right? QBs, good ones, they make good decisions. They're good decision makers. So you want to see him evolve, but I think that comes with the level of comfort with the system, and you can look at Aaron Rodgers early on in the LaFleur system. He didn't look great. It took him some time. Not really comparing apples to apples because he was so much later in his career when he went into a new system, but still, it's not going to come out perfect right away. You do have to kind of cut your teeth on some other teams, different defensive looks and all of that before you really have a feel for the right decisions, I guess, to say it that way. But yeah, you want to see more. You want to see more. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say this too is, last week going into this matchup, we talked about, meeting the moment. Justin Fields, obviously Big Ten quarterback, playing under the lights at Ohio State, playing big games against Michigan, against college football playoff teams, and I didn't think going into this matchup that this moment was too big for him. But looking at what was on what we saw on the field is he didn't look comfortable. He didn't look like he was in control. At times when the camera would pan to Justin, he kind of had that 1,000-yard stare, like, oh shit, right? Like what did I get myself into here? And I think that's why I'm not panicking. And going back to your quote last week of, Panicville and coming back to Relax Town, that's where I'm at right now, right? So obviously emotions are running high Sunday night, and you're panicking because you're like, well, golly, I wanted to see a whole lot more. Why I want to bring even our listeners, especially our Bear fan listeners, back to Relax Town is because there's been a lot of overreaction, and I think that the overreaction is coming from the crowd that you could probably never please this crowd right now that's writing off Justin Fields, and I'm definitely in the camp that's saying, look guys, people had us going 0-16, people had us going 0-2 in these 2 weeks. Not to say let's consider ourselves lucky, but let's go out Sunday against a Lovie Smith Houston team, and let's start seeing really what we have as far as this team that we know what we have, and that's a rebuild that's in year one, that a majority of those players out there on 1 and 2 year, really let's call it a 1 year deal, right? There's not a whole lot of 2 year deals out there. There's 1 year deals. This team's going to look very different next year. And you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? So like what I mentioned the preseason is this year is going to be a whole lot of ups and downs. It's going to be rocky. Sometimes it's not going to be pretty, but the team's going to continue to compete, and I got to give them an opportunity to do that. I have to. I can't jump ship. Not that I would, but I can't jump ship over this performance. But there were 2 teams on the field, right? And I think that that's something to keep in mind too, is that the Packers came out and they played really good football. And the only thing I would say, the caveat that I would throw in there is they did let the Bears stick around, right? We talked about this with the Niners. Is you're watching the game, you're like, oh great, here we go, another Bears game, and then you're just like, well, they're letting them stick around. Then that third quarter comes around, Miles, and I don't know if you remember my score prediction. My score prediction was 24-17 final. So I'm sitting there, I'm gripping the couch. I'm like, Miles isn't going to believe this. It's going to be 24-17. And sure enough, I mean, we all know what happened on that 4th and goal. But you want to talk about that?
Hey, there's a couple elephants in the room I think we have to address before we can look on to Lovie Smith and Tom Brady.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. And what I want to say, let's start with the goal line, right? What I want to say, and what I mentioned last night on the guys on the Outdated podcast, NFL Outdated.
Yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah, shout out to those guys. I think it's they're gonna kill me because I don't know that. Outdated. It's the Friesen Four. There it is. I was like the Final Four, Friesen Final. I couldn't get it all together. Yeah, Friesen Four. Shout out to you guys. We had a great time last night talking about some of these games, and one of the things that I said was this defense is fast, and I cannot remember a time in my roughly 30 years of fandom where I've seen a linebacker that would go toe to toe with Justin Fields in a situation like Quay Walker did. To me, the play was not made in that controversial, with the circle. Where's the football? Here's his arm. To me, the play was made the play before that when Quay Walker went step for step and legitimately stopped him and kept him out of the end zone in that play and forced the next play, which controversial, not clear. And I like I said with the other guys, and I'll say it here, I think if it's called a touchdown on the field, it stays a touchdown on the field. But it wasn't, and I don't think it was. I think it really was an inch shy, but again, it's neither here nor there. To me, the play was made by Quay Walker on the third down, forcing the fourth down. We just haven't seen it. Any year before last year, I guess Devondre Campbell also has some of that speed, but I don't even know if he is making that play. We haven't seen that before. Justin Fields scores that touchdown before this year, in my opinion. So that's where, to me, it's like, yeah, that other play was controversial. It wasn't clear. You just kind of have to take those as they fall. The Packers have certainly been on the wrong side of some of those too. But you don't want it to come down to that. To me, if I'm a Bears fan, I want Justin Fields scoring on that previous play.
No doubt.
Right. And that he got close. He did get close, as close as you can. But no, and then there's obviously the holding calls, right? Everybody was making a lot of deal about the holding calls. There were certainly some missed. The one that resulted in a sack to me was kind of humorous because it looked like the ref was just like, well, I'd call a hold, but the sack is better, so I'll just not. but it's not your. You shouldn't be doing.
Don't have that autonomy.
No,
you know what I'm
they
saying?
should not. I
the
totally
refs
agree.
Don't have that autonomy, and when it's blatant like
it
that,
was very, very bad. I mean, he hugged him.
It's very bad.
Hugged him from the back. I mean, that's just.
Well, before we get into that, I do want to go, especially with this platform on record, and you're right. You don't want it to come down to getting stuffed on fourth down, right?
Or the ref calls. You don't want
or the ref calls, right? And with that specific play, and I know that Luke Getsy has come out and said that was the best play that I wanted to run at that moment, because Justin was in shotgun, right? And for me, I mean, sometimes it's like, are we outthinking ourselves, right? Like, are we? And I tweeted this.
Let me answer that, because I didn't get a chance to tweet this, but I was thinking it, and the one thing, and I don't know what Getsy's thinking. I can't guarantee it, but what I would believe his thought process is here, and the goal line is a controversial place for play calling. When Fields is in shotgun, he has a better ability to read what happens on the line in front of him and take the clear hole. And I believe he actually had one that he didn't take.
Right. No, he did. I mean, it closed up quick.
Yeah. I mean,
the hole was there in real time. I mean, when you slow a lot of the replays we see, Miles,
it's
are
in slow motion.
And
you can't expect that's reality, right? These guys are making these decisions in just split seconds.
Split seconds. And
but that would be the justification for me.
Yeah, and I agree, right? And my exception to that would be, even with a lane, you're still asking him to pick up 4 yards versus a foot.
Yep.
And to me, that's where I go back to: are we out thinking ourselves here?
Yeah. Absolutely, man.
To me, I agree with you. And another agreement here is, if that is called a touchdown on the field, that there wasn't anything conclusive from what we've seen, every angle we've seen. There wasn't anything conclusive, which makes me ask this question, and this isn't Packers or Bears related. This is mostly NFL. Would you, at that point, because every scoring play is reviewed, right? Would you, at that point, lean towards calling those touchdowns and then taking touchdowns off the board? Or would you rather it be this questionable, quote unquote, controversy retrospectively?
To me, this is a lot like the whole umpire in baseball situation, and I think the umpire in baseball situation is a little bit more clear as far as like you touch the base or not. Whereas in football and other things can fall into this category too. There's a lot of like you want it called as it's seen, and because that's how the game's always been played. And we just said it. When you go back and you look at something in slow motion, it can look very different than what it looked like in real motion. And catching the football, I'll give the Cowboys something that they want here. The Cowboys fans. In real time, does it look like Dez catches that football? Absolutely. Does that look like what a football catch looks like? Yes. That's why it was called a catch. Unfortunately, the NFL wrote a bunch of dumb rules in there that the more egregious example was Megatron. I don't know if you remember that. You probably do remember that because I believe the Bears won that game because of that
Yep.
call.
Yep.
I mean, he caught the ball in the end zone and put it on the ground,
Yeah.
and it's like, wait, that, how in the earth is that an incomplete pass? Like it was unreal to me how that could be called an incomplete pass. So to me, I kind of lean towards I'd rather have it called as it's seen. When you see Megatron catch that ball and put it on the ground, that's a catch. Like it just like I don't need to look at your rule book at that point. I see that with my eyes that was a catch. It's a touchdown. Game over. Same thing with Dez. Even I think you can say, and that's why Cowboys fans still say it was a catch because when you watch it, it's like he caught the ball and then he made a move for the end zone. Like that was a catch. Why do we need to go to the rule book at that point? Why is there a rule that says, hey, wait, but think about me if you think that's a catch? Fortunately for Packers fans, McCarthy knew about that in some wild way. I mean, I remember being just absolutely shocked because I walked away from the TV at that point because I was pissed. But yeah, man. So I think I lean towards I want it called as it's seen. In those cases, it's tough because there's such a cluster around the ball. So, how is it seen? Is it even close to accurate? We've seen examples where, they get it totally wrong. So I don't know, man. I think that I kind of lean towards, and this is maybe a theme. I just lean towards not having a rule in place and dealing with these situations as they come up. And again, we've been on the raw side of those sometimes too, but that's football. I think at that point, it's like, well, if you want to get real precise, put a microchip in the ball and a laser on the goal line.
Why don't we do that?
Why haven't we done it? I don't know. I mean,
Right.
to me, it's like, well, you can't tell me you don't have the technology. I go to Top Golf,
Right.
it
Well, I
can tell,
mean, major professional sports at the major league level across different sports uses technology, right?
yeah,
Like tennis uses this laser technology and abides by it.
yeah,
For me, like this is obviously splitting hairs, right? But the rule as it's written is that the body doesn't need to cross the plane. The football doesn't need to cross the plane. It just needs to break the plane. And
across the
I
front of the
think
white
I think
line.
yep, that's it. That's it. It doesn't even have to be the whole football. I
Right.
think Tom Brady is probably the goat here at this. Is just very quickly punching the ball
Yep.
out and then putting it back in. Right. Um, I think Justin grows from this moment. I think Luke Getzey as a play caller grows from this moment. Um, and I think the last thing I'll say is, home field is home field for a reason. Does that same fourth down get called a stuffed fourth down defense off the field at Soldier Field? I mean,
I
you
don't
don't
know.
know.
You don't know.
But in Green Bay, it's not going to be called a touchdown, right? Like it's home field advantage for a reason.
Well,
Um,
but again, it's those aren't the things you want it to come down to. You want to win where it's like, look, it didn't come down to one thing or two things. The game was won on these other plays, right? And I think that there are a handful of things that if they happen and the Bears find a way to win, we're not talking about those small things, field scores or a holding call gets called. if somehow the Bears hang on, Fields scores there, and they ultimately win, we're talking about the Packers' run defense absolutely giving the game away, which is what it
Yeah.
felt like was going to happen.
Well, credit to David Montgomery. And
When
to tell you the
he
truth, Miles,
started
I know
bad.
we spent a lot of time on this goal line, but if hypothetically that's a touchdown, I still don't think the Bears win this game, right?
No, I don't.
Like
I
I
don't think
like
so. I think you get competitive Aaron Rodgers after that, and he just carves it up. But
100%. I think for me it was a little bit more of a sting because it was my final score prediction. So I was really amped up. I was like, okay, like at that point I'm starting to feel like Nostradamus. Like
just need a consolation prize.
yeah, I got the players, the 53-man roster. I got some of the cuts, predict those right. Predicted. I see my record up there. I'm 2-0 on my predictions right now. I was like, if I get this final score right, um, I'm on to something. But sure enough, history had something else in mind. Um, but I will throw one interesting caveat out there. So, Equanimous St. Brown, he told the Bears locker room that the turf at Lambeau is really slick, and so he told them um, to wear the longer cleats and,
Okay.
and to put the screws in there for those longer cleats for the Green Bay turf. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Had you ever heard that before?
Um, I don't think so. I
No.
mean, I could see why it might be longer. I mean, just looking at it, it does kind of look like it could be longer. But I've never heard that before. And my I don't know. My first thought is like, well, a lot of those players have played at Lambeau last year. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like a secret if they've been there
Yeah.
before. So I don't know. Is that a non-headline?
It's a non-headline. I just thought it was one of those that stood out. Right. We talk about the players that they switch hats and
Well,
um,
you know what? I'd like to call out Lucas Patrick. I mean, you talk about guys switching hats. I would say that he's probably far more important to that offense than Equanimous St. Brown. Um, just again, coming with Luke Getsy, your O line understanding concepts and being able to work cohesively is very important. And if you've got a guy who understands what the coach is asking for while the rest of the guys are trying to learn it, it's gonna speed those things up. It's just
yeah.
naturally gonna happen versus having five guys learning something new. So him playing guard is I think that was expected with the whole broken hand situation or whatever it is, the cast.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how different that line looks when he goes over to center. And
So
that's your play
we're
caller at that
recording
point.
here on Thursday. We got some
Yes,
Thursday night football on the calendar.
that's right.
So as of today, Miles, his cast is off and he's snapping. He's snapping the football,
Okay. All
which
right.
which is really good news if you're a Bears fan because Sam Mustipher was getting absolutely blown off the ball by that Packers front four, especially nose tackle. Forgive me, I'm not sure who it was, but just getting blown off the ball, ragdolled off the ball.
Kenny Clark had a
Um,
few pretty good ones with him.
there you go, Kenny Clark.
Yeah.
And so, with that being said, right, double edged sword, they were rotating Lucas Patrick and Tevin Jenkins again the entire game, like they did versus the Niners, every two series. And you and I talked about it. Is it conditioning? Is it football shape? Well, obviously, Lucas Patrick's hand wasn't fully healed where he could comfortably, confidently snap that football to Justin Fields. And now, well, before I get to now, in the game versus the Packers, Tevin Jenkins was absolutely just in beast mode. Again, 2 weeks in a row, just dominating, being mean and nasty and driving people in the running game
He looks
off the
good.
ball.
He
He
does.
looks good. He looks really good. And that's a win-win, right? I mean, we were talking about this. This is a young man that was on the trading block a month ago, right? And that's a really good win for Ryan Poles if he does have a franchise guard there, um, because then his free agent splash, which was Lucas Patrick, solidifies that line a little bit. You have some continuity moving into the rest of the season. And if he's snapping at practice, I'm going to assume, right? Obviously, I don't have the insider information, but I'm going to assume that he slots into that center position versus Houston. You have Tevin Jenkins at guard, and you don't have to worry about rotating anymore. You can get into a game flow, you can get into that rhythm, and then Justin Fields can benefit from having a center of the caliber that is Lucas Patrick
Yeah.
versus a Sam Mustipher.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. I don't think that there's any reason for panic if you don't see that happen this week. If it takes another week, I think more and more lately you see kind of the abundance of caution, especially early in the season with these teams. And it took the Packers. They held Jenkins and Bakhtiari out of week 1. Jenkins got back on week 2. Bakhtiari still week to week, man. That's a story unfolding in itself that some people are, all in their feels about. It's like, if y'all don't think that guy wants to play more than anybody wants him to play, you're nuts.
Yeah.
If he could be on the field safely, he would be. So, I just hope that he's able to get back that way, and you don't have to ultimately replace, the best left tackle in the league. Which when he got hurt, that's what he was. So as far as I'm concerned, that's what he still is until you see that he's not. But either way, early in the season like that, things are so different. I could easily see them holding out against a Houston team. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep working out some kinks. Keep getting other guys rotated reps, whatever it is. Especially against a Houston, and we're kind of jumping ahead. We can get into game, some predictions and outlooks and all that here in a little bit. But ultimately, and you kind of are illustrating this too. As soon as you move a Lucas Patrick to center and you get a full-time Tevin Jenkins at guard, your team looks totally different from when it did week 1 or what it did week 1. So you have to leave room for these things each week, and so I had, after week 1, I had some overreactions. Well, what happened? Well, Aaron Rodgers snapped back in and became Aaron Rodgers again, just like he did last year. He set the offseason ego aside. He got into the film room and had to watch himself make some mistakes, and now he's locked in. So I thought that was good to see. I think that, in this game, Packer fans, if there was one thing you needed to see a locked-in Aaron Rodgers, and that's what you got. Was it perfect? No. He definitely still had some things that, you don't want to see, but this was not the week 1 Aaron Rodgers we've seen the last 2 years. This looked a little bit more like the guy that just won back-to-back MVPs. And then you got to see the running backs, man. I mean, that's what you should have seen in week 1. They were already, they had a good average per carry, and they just didn't give him the ball. So you get those guys a few more touches in week 2 here against a young Bears defense, and they did exactly what I expected them to do. I don't know that anybody can expect like close to 10 yards a carry from a guy, but I did expect Aaron Jones to have a good game, and Rodgers alluded to it this Tuesday on McAfee. Jones might be one of the best receivers on the team. I think he is. If he's not the best, he's a top 3 receiver for them. You've seen the ability there in the past. He's flashed it. He's made a lot of tough catches. He's had really good hands catches. So that guy, I'd say watch out. If the Packers are forced to find another go-to guy to replace, what they had with Devontae Adams, that's your guy. That's the guy they're going to try to force feed if anybody, and it should be. He's dynamic. He's able to do a lot of different things, and I'm not here to jinx anything, but the guy takes good care of himself. He hasn't spent a lot of time on the sideline because of injuries. For whatever the reason is, I hope he keeps it up and is able to stay in the game. But you love to see that when you see guys, like Christian McCaffrey. It's like every year you're kind of waiting for when he goes on IR or Saquon Barkley or some of these other guys. it hasn't been that way for Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon. So I was happy to see those guys get going, and I think that if this offense is going to be successful this season, that's where it's got to start. And
Yeah.
then everything opens up whenever you're running for 5-6 yards a carry.
Well, last episode I told you to keep an eye on that Packers running game with the Bears interior defensive line, right? And as I was watching the game, I was just like, called that one because there was no stops at the line of scrimmage in that run defense, and they had running lanes all day. And then you have essentially you're asking your DBs, your cornerbacks and safeties to go up against your running back, and you're already 10 yards down the field.
Yeah,
that's winning football right there.
Well, so let me ask you, man, because going into week one and week two, you seem to have a higher degree of confidence in that defense than most of Bears Twitter. You've certainly had some good calls on those young DBs. It seems like you got some real players in there. After facing an Aaron Rodgers offense, how you feeling about that young defense? Do you still feel like there's some good players, or were there some frauds exposed?
No, I don't think that there was frauds exposed, because if I'm committing to that, then I'm committing to saying a rookie's a fraud, and I'm not willing to do that. And why I say that is because did Kyler Gordon leave a lot to be desired with his play? Like, absolutely. But I also feel like he's an instinctive football player. He's a ball hawk. And the game has not slowed down for him yet, right? So he's definitely reacting about a split second, probably too late. He did make a nice little play, I think, in the red zone. Aaron Rodgers floated a ball up, and he punched it out of, I believe it was Alan Lazard's hands, like right at the goal line. He made a play on the ball, which is good. But there was a lot of mistakes that were made. They're tackling really high. I think Eberflus came out today and said, guess what? We need to tackle low, and we need to wrap up. And that's true. I mean, like as a fan, you're watching the game. You're just like, come on, guys, like wrap them up. Holy smokes.
Well, there were a few of those on the Packers defense too, so I know the feeling.
Yeah, and I mean, these are pro athletes, right? I mean, they don't need to go through tackling drills. But I'll never stop just being completely mind blown at the fact that they think they can come in and just shoulder check someone, and that's a tackle. I mean, these like, if you're gonna say, okay, well, Miguel, these are professional safeties, professional cornerbacks. It's like, okay, well, these are your Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillons of the world.
Yeah,
like they're not going to go down. You coming in full speed and you hit them, they're going to probably absorb that hit, take a step back, and then probably keep going.
A.J. Dillon for sure, man. He's a bowling ball.
Yeah, I mean, guy's got he's really proud of his thighs too. Right? His guy
quads
works out
for days, man.
Yeah, his quads. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, with this defense, and why I'm still on board with this D, is because it's a young defense. Obviously, you have two rookies, 2 second-round picks out there in the secondary. Jalen Johnson was not targeted a whole lot by Aaron Rodgers. I would say this is that 58 Roquan. I've given him his kudos for being a vocal leader. It's time to put some money where your mouth is at. I feel like he is, rightfully so, probably fixated on a contract, and he knows to get that big money, he needs to make some splash plays.
Yeah.
But when you fixate on splash plays and you want to anticipate, and you're trying to jump routes, and you're trying to maybe not be as disciplined in the running game, and you're biting on these fakes because you want to go make that play, you're leaving your DBs exposed, right? And I mean, it's tough to cover anybody in football. I wouldn't even say at the NFL level. It's tough to cover anybody in football because you just don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
And I think Roquan and that linebacker core, if we have a call out, like who is Miguel calling out? Those linebackers need to wake up.
Yeah.
And if they're not willing to wake up, I mean, you got the Jack Sanborns of the world, the Weatherfords of the world, these hungry guys. It's like, at least let them go try and make a play. And I think they clean it up. So I don't want to overreact. I think they do clean it up because they are fast. You talk about fast; it doesn't get faster than Roquan. He's one of the faster linebackers in the NFL, but speed doesn't mean anything without football IQ, without discipline.
Yep.
And Aaron Rodgers is one of. I mean, watching that game, Miles, and it's always twice a year with Green Bay. And I mean, you watch every Green Bay game all season long, so you see this more than I do. Boy, he is a master of the football of cadence,
Yes.
of the cadence up at the line of scrimmage. I'm a fan, right? I'm not even a defensive end or tackle, and sometimes I'm jumping, right? Because it's just he's so good at it. It's tough to play Aaron Rodgers, but I think the Bears, they need to. They know who they're playing. They play him twice a year. But yeah, I'm still a fan of this defense. I think they definitely need to clean up a lot. I think I've been pretty vocal about that in this episode of what I would like to see them clean up. But I would say if there's bright spots, it's definitely that there's some talent there that wasn't there before.
Well, and when you're in a rebuild phase, you're talking about guys on 1-year contracts, and a lot of guys won't be here next year. You certainly want to see some of those cornerstones start to establish themselves. You want to see young DBs, establish themselves as like, I'm going to be a defensive leader. I'm going to be a defensive starter. Does that mean they're perfect year one? No. But you see the right things from them, the right attitude, the right just kind of the way they carry themselves throughout the season, right? Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? Are you able to learn from the mistakes or not? So yeah, I think that's what you can ask for right now. And the Packers have certainly been in that situation with different positional groups over the years where, my daughter's really upset about that. I don't know if that could be heard or not. But yeah, you got certain positional groups where you just have to be patient with them. You have to let them make mistakes and learn. And you learn quickly who is going to step up and who's not, right? And that's the thing that you have to watch for. And I think as fans, you have to try to enjoy it, right? Like, yeah, they're going to make mistakes, but man, when they make some like awesome plays, like you're saying, when you got talent in that defense that you didn't have there last year, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch. It really is. And again, I'm kind of sitting here from a perspective of there was a lot of years where I did not like watching the Packers secondary. They were just like, we always had some kind of replacement safety in there. We always had DBs who just couldn't get it done. They were too small, too slow. And man, obviously the Super Bowl run, we had some good ones, but now we get to sit back and watch. Like Jair Alexander, when he was a young man, like he made mistakes, but my goodness, and he is a young man still, but like as a rookie, he just showed those like, this is my spot. This is my league now. He had that attitude about him, and he wasn't looking for somebody to give him permission to have that, right? And that's, I think, what you want to see is these guys are just like, this is mine. I'm going to take this and do what I can with it. But so, that I could totally appreciate, man. That's why I'm kind of curious myself. Like, how does this Bears defense mature? And, who do I need to be worried about as a Packers fan over the next few years?
Yeah. Well, I would say definitely that's Brisker, Jaquan Brisker. And I've said that, and not to be lost in the shuffle, that was actually yielded from the Khalil Mack trade to the Chargers. Ryan Poles.
That's a relevant detail.
That's a relevant detail.
Yep.
Because you get you could say generational pass rusher in Khalil Mack. And he is a beast on the Chargers. I think he's got like 5 sacks already. Like he's a beast. But I mean, he was on the Bears for 3 years, and we just saw that doesn't necessarily translate to wins, right? Having Khalil Mack there, I think that Ryan Poles flipping him for a young stud safety. I mean, when you think about it, and would you rather have Khalil Mack? Well, of course, right? But when you're rebuilding a team, does it make sense to have that contract and that player on your team? No,
Not at all.
right? Objectively, no.
No.
And to get that piece, I think that is a winning piece right there with having a safety like Jaquan Brisker. And I will say this because I was very critical of Kyler Gordon on Sunday night. Emotion has subsided. I think that he definitely is someone I can get excited about. I think he needs to definitely like shake some of those cobwebs off and realize like, all right, I'm not at Washington anymore. These are the Alan Lazards of the world and the Randall Cobbs of the world. Not some Pac-12, walk on.
Yeah.
So definitely something to keep an eye on as far as that defense. But you guys got Tom Brady on the radar. Is it a home game?
Here we go. No, we got to go down to Tampa Bay here. So we're officially moving on here into our next game, predictions, outlooks, all of that. Any kind of final thoughts on that last game? Any sort of farewells to the first matchup of the rivalry of this season?
I'll say farewell to Sam Mustipher. How about that? Thank you. Thank you for your services.
Love it.
It's Lucas Patrick time.
Love it.
No, I'm not putting. Look, Miles. I from the first night that we ever hopped on this platform, I said they're going to split, and you asked me which game they're going to take, and I said Justin Fields wins one at Soldier Field versus Aaron Rodgers this year. It was bittersweet watching this game. Obviously, as a fan, you want that W more than anything, right? Yeah. But it's playing out. Really, the season's playing out how I thought it would. And I think if anything, this gives Justin and the Bears, and you don't think Luke Getsy has competitive juices. You don't think he wants to beat LaFleur at home. And so that's why I say
he wants to beat Rodgers, man. You kidding me?
Oh yeah. He wants to beat Rodgers for sure. And I think that crowd is going to be electric when Rodgers comes in, especially after the comments last year.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm going to stay true to that. I think that one, and hold me to it, right? So if that game week comes and I'm saying, no, I think the Bears lose this one, you could tell me to clean up my side of the street. But yeah, there's not a whole lot for me to take away from this game, right? I mean, the Bears were slotted to be 0-2. They're 1-1, and they're looking at the next 4 games are winnable games. And so for the people that had them 0-16, I know they're punching air right now, but I'm going to stay in Relaxville, if that's all right. I'm going to join you there if that's all right.
Hey, man, I welcome you here anytime. I like chilling here too, and I just hope that Aaron Rodgers doesn't kick me out. But no, you have to take what you can from it, and I obviously enjoy the win. I think it's going to be interesting to see if Chicago can get their revenge on their owner in this next matchup. But I did say last night on the Frozen Four with those guys, I said, if the Bears can't win this week against Houston, I may not be able to get Miguel to do another podcast with me. So I don't know, man. If they go winless between now and the next matchup, will you even hop on here? Or are you gonna hang in there with me?
I'm committed, man.
All right.
I'm committed. I mean, if the listeners, definitely the viewers, if you can't tell by now, I'm sucking a little bit. I'm a little under the weather, but I committed to hopping on here. Lost my voice a little bit. Yeah, no, I'm committed, Miles, and like I said, I'm blue and orange. It runs deep. I'm excited to see how the division shakes out.
Well, let's take another step here in the season. We'll jump into the Packers-Buccaneers matchup that we've got this weekend. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. figuratively matching up. Obviously, the QBs don't play each other. I love people on Twitter that feel like they have to say that every time there's an ad about quarterbacks against each other. But it's an iconic matchup, I guess, as much as there is one in the NFL right now. I don't know for you. How does Rodgers versus Brady compare to Brady versus Manning?
Well, Brady versus Manning isn't really possible week 3 in the 2022 season anymore. I
Pitch
think
that
it's
question to the
just
offseason.
yeah. Let's pitch that one to the offseason. I think the reality is you have a 45-year-old Tom Brady who's as competitive as ever. If you ask me as a Bears fan, right, how do you feel about this? I'm freaking ticked off that Mike Evans of all weeks to get suspended gets suspended this week. I mean, it's just the reality of a Bears fan. You're just like, really, of all 17 games, this is the week. But shout out to Lattimore. He always seems to get under under someone's skin. Golly.
What
But
a
yeah,
matchup that is, man. Those two
well,
just can't stand
well,
each
we
other.
talked a lot about Bears Packers, rightfully so, as the OG Rivals podcast, but there was a lot of good football last week. A lot of good football. Not to let's not just gloss over that primetime Kirk Cousins showed out, and just got absolutely manhandled by Jalen Hurts and the Birds. Go Birds! I have a few Army buddies that are real big Eagle fans. Um,
I love when I see primetime Kirk Cousins, man. Just
yeah,
that's my favorite.
yeah. No, I mean, if week 1 was prime time, I think that would have been a different end result for the Packers.
No doubt,
Um,
man.
Guy
And
just does a phenomenal disappearing act.
can we please acknowledge how quickly everybody, all the MVP Kirk Cousins folks did a disappearing act too? What
Oh
happened
yeah,
to the Kirk Cousins for MVP folks? Where are you? Hey, we're supposed to be talking football here, folks. You predicted him to win an MVP. This is only week 3. You can't be disappearing on me now. I got
yeah.
the back to back MVP that I'm betting on. Is did I bail on that week 1? No, I didn't. Come on, guys.
Well,
If
your
you,
Twitter arch nemesis is out there.
I
I
hope
know
he's
that for a
listening to me. This
fact.
second rate podcast, man. He's no way he's wasting his time on a second rate podcast
No
that hates his
way.
team.
No way.
If you do, I want you on this show at some point, sir. We need to talk about it. You're a special
The
individual.
official invite. Here we go. Yeah, there was a lot of good football, and kind of coming back to to Tampa. Tampa, it looked like they were in an NFC North game. They were playing a division rival. It was like 3-3, then 6-6, then 6-9. I mean, it
Just a
it was just one of
black
those
and
where it
blue
was just
game.
black and blue, and now they're coming off of that game. You know that 12 Tom Brady. I can't say 12 because it's 12
Yeah.
12 with Brady and Rodgers, but TB12 he's not happy with how that game went.
No.
And you can see in the league I think slapped Bruce Arians on the wrist a little bit because he was part of that Lattimore scuffle. He was
What does he care?
talking.
He's like, fine.
Yeah, what's he care for real? Um, but again, if you ask me as a Bears fan, I am upset about the suspension, obviously, and not at the NFL. Like, why would you suspend? I'm more like upset at Mike Evans. But you definitely, yeah. I mean, there's like a pretty infamous clip that's making its rounds on the internet of him like going to the ref and saying, like, "What the fuck do you want me to do?" It's Tom Brady. And sorry, you could edit out that F bomb, but
Nah, we can withstand one or two. No, he's
yeah, one
right
or
though,
two.
man. I mean, that's the greatest of all time right there. Guy's got more Super Bowl trophies than anybody else. And you think that I'm just going to stand around as his receiver and watch a DB push him? No,
Yeah,
get out of
no,
here.
no way.
I thought it was funny. He had the comment. He's like, "Man, the hit that I had on him, like several years ago, was way dirtier, and I didn't get suspended for that." I thought it was hilarious that he'd even admit that one of those hits was dirty, but he's right. The one from a few years ago, he hit him from behind. At least in this one, Lattimore saw him coming. He hit him square in the front.
Yeah.
You know,
But man, those New Orleans DBs, man.
I don't know what it is about that, man. There's just like an
Golly.
attitude down there.
Yeah, they good for them, man. I mean, they're never the ones getting flagged. I'll tell you that. The late hits are always on the offense.
Hey, would you say
Um,
home cooking, man? The food's good in New
yeah,
Orleans.
no kidding. But yeah, it looks like with Chris Godwin and the rest of that Tampa Bay offense with Leonard Fournette down there. Um, I don't know. What are your thoughts? You think you're gonna come out of Tampa victorious?
So, thoughts and feelings are different. My thoughts are, on paper, there's no way anybody should catch a ball on the Tampa Bay offense. You got, again, three of the most talented and probably the three best, or the best triple tandem or triplets of DBs in the league. Um, you should shut them down. Even with Tom Brady, he shouldn't have anybody to throw to except for his running back checkdowns and his tight ends. He should have zero completions to receivers as far as I'm concerned. But as we saw a few years ago, even with only a few seconds left in a half, Scotty Miller can score against this secondary. So I'm not looking past anybody, especially with a Tom Brady with a chip on his shoulder. He's going to go out there and score with, three guys that are working at target this week. So what I'm looking for is I want to see, again, kind of what I saw last week from Aaron Rodgers. Leave your ego at home. I don't care if you're playing against Tom Brady and you're going to listen to all the people talk about you all week and 12 verse 12. And I want you to leave your ego at home and come in just like he did against the Arizona Cardinals of week 7 last year and just play football. Just deal, dude. Whether you're dealing to A.J. Dillon or Aaron Jones or Robert Tonyan or any of the host of receivers, just deal. Get out there and sling the rock. But I want to see the Packers run the ball. I think that that's how they win this game. You got to run just like you did last week. You got to let your best players be your best players. Run screens, things like that. Get the defense moving side to side. But ultimately, from the Packers defense, don't get beat. It's a really weird, simple thing to say, I guess. But if you get beat by this Tampa Bay offense, I'm in panic mode. This is not good.
Oh,
Um,
geez, I wouldn't say panic mode. They're 2-0. They're two and
they're
zero. They've
two
been
and
well.
zero with Mike Evans on the field. They're 2-0 with better receivers than what they're going to have on the field. And they're kind of an ugly 2-0. But It,
Yeah,
not
outside
full
of Randy.
panic mode. I'd be in more like specific panic mode about individuals, right? So again, if we go out here and you see what happens and the Packers end up losing, and we'll know why. And I'd be looking then, is it Joe Barry didn't adjust like he didn't against the Vikings? He just sits in a soft defense and gets crushed all game. Is it a specific DB who can't get his stuff together? What is it? Is there no pass rush? There'll be a reason. If you get beat by this Tampa Bay offense, there will be a clear reason, a clear breakdown, and that's where I'm gonna have some panic about that because
Yeah,
there's just not a whole lot about this offense that should really beat you. They might keep up with you. I could see them winning a 20-17 game, and if that's the case, okay, that's different. But if they go out there and you got Tom Brady again scoring at the very end of a half, getting an extra 7 points he shouldn't get by throwing a deep ball to Scotty Miller, then this secondary is not. They're not what we thought they were. take a line from old Danny Green, but we came into this season thinking that this was one of the best secondaries in football, and I was certainly saying that too. And I'm not going to sit here and say that they've shown any reason why they're not. Obviously you got torched by Justin Jefferson. There's things you can do to adjust to that. We'll see. But if you go out here and you get torched by Tom Brady in this game without his weapons, not good, man. Not good at all.
well, the type of game I envision, Miles, is no one's getting torched. I'm not sure if you're aware of this statistic, but the Buccaneers defense has allowed the least points in the NFL.
Well, I'm
Oh,
not talking about their defense. I'm afraid of their defense. That's why I'm saying if the Packers lose this game, it's probably because they couldn't beat the Buccaneers defense, not because they got torched by the offense.
okay.
If they do get
That,
torched by the offense, I'm just like, wait, this is not good. That's the part that shouldn't have happened. You go out and you
yeah,
get beat by a really good defense. Well,
I
that's the
imagine that
NFL.
this game is going to be familiar for Green Bay fans in the sense of what they're used to seeing in the NFC North type games. Um, the type of game I envision is going to be probably very similar to that New Orleans Saints versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers game of week 2,
Yeah,
where Brady's frustrated. Probably Rodgers will be frustrated too.
yeah.
Just because the defense is. I think this is going to be a black and blue defensive matchup with Hall of Fame quarterbacks
Isn't that how it
just
goes?
along for the ride. Yeah. No, I say that because you're not going to be playing, the Bears unit of young guys. I think that obviously is a Tom Brady team, and we talked about this. Is a Tom Brady team is built for a deep playoff run. Usually comes with a nice solid defense
And a run game.
Again, don't want to skim over the fact that they have allowed the least points out of any defensive unit in the NFL, both in the AFC and NFC.
It's 2 weeks. It's a
Um,
good 2 week stretch, but that doesn't mean they're invincible yet.
no, and they're playing Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yep.
I'm just trying to set the tone of what type of game I envision.
Yeah, no,
Right?
I agree with you, man, and I think that with what you will see is a frustrated Aaron Rodgers because this defense is going to test the young guys, right? You'll
Yeah,
have, I think the O line will be okay. I think they'll hold up fine. They're all familiar with what they're walking into.
yeah,
I think the running backs will be okay. Again, they know what they're getting into. You got young receivers out there though that I don't think you haven't played a defense like that where the back end is really fast and really smart. Winfield's a smart player. Both of their linebackers are smart players, and so when you've got guys that are going to be somewhere faster than you are used to, and you've got to make decisions quicker, the receivers are going to make mistakes. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Hopefully, the Lazards and the Cobbs of the world can mitigate some of those things, but what I want to see is kind of a repeat of the game plan against the Bears. I want to see you run the stinking ball, and I want to see those guys run sideline to sideline. If you're going to be a fast linebacker, I want you running 50 yards every play. That's what I want to see. I want you sprinting 25 there, and you had to jog back, and maybe more than that. If you do that, by the time you get into the fourth quarter, you got a different defense running or lining up across from you than you did in the first quarter.
yeah.
So I'm excited about this game. I'm really interested to see what Matt LaFleur looks like, and that's maybe kind of an interesting statement. Not actually, I don't care about his hair as much as Rodgers does. But the last time he played Tampa Bay, he got his lunch eaten. He got totally outcoached, and I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see him come in here with a prepared group of men ready to adjust to a fast defense and, ready to play full 4 quarters. Like you're saying, this is going to be a tough game. You're going to have mistakes on both sides, and it probably comes down to who has the ball last, just like the NFC Championship game did. And so yeah, I think pressure to me is on the Packers defense more than the Packers offense. The offense is going to be more prone to make mistakes than the defense. I think the defense needs to come out and you've got a reduced receiving core that you should bully. You should absolutely line up in front of them and make sure that every time they're trying to come off the line, they got hands in their chest. And then you need to get that pass rush unleashed against Tom Brady, because you just lined up against Justin Fields and had to chase a real athlete. Go get a mannequin, okay? Go hit a mannequin.
Well, that's what he looks like these days.
Yeah.
That's what he looks like these days. Well, I'll tell you what. Not to overlook this, but this is also the home opener for Tampa.
That's tough. It's going to be a tough environment. That is a
It's gonna be a
tough
tough
game.
one. Yeah,
But you have opportunities to win because I think Tampa's going to have a hard time scoring. It's going to be tough to score on that defense, but your run game being your strength, like in this going against a defense like Tampa Bay, I would prefer to have my run game be my strength than my receivers be my strength. Because those receivers, even, and we've seen this before, even when you've got the best group of receivers out there, good DBs shut them down. A good
yeah,
defense mitigates those guys. You need that run game because it's an equalizer and kind of a demoralizer. It slows the game down. It forces guys to hit, forces guys to run. It's that's what I want to see. I think that's where the Packers should win this game. I'd certainly rather see the Bucs at a full strength roster. Then you get a little bit more of a taste of what the Packers are actually made of. But you can only win the game you're in. So in
yeah,
this game, you got to play what you're up against, and those are my takeaways. The defense should shine, the pass rush should shine, and the run game should keep it manageable for Rodgers to pull it out. But we'll see, man. My gut feeling says the things you think about this game are going to be wrong. That's what my gut feel says.
What does your gut say about the final score?
I can't shake my homer here. I think the Packers do pull this one out for those reasons that I stated. I think that the pass rush definitely has some success against Brady and keeps him in check. The Packers' run offense, those two running backs and the O line, they give you the chance to control the game, and it'll probably be a low scoring game. I'll call it. Let's say something weird like 23-20. The Packers get to drive.
Ooh,
It's tied at the end. They drive down and get just close enough for Mason Crosby to seal it with the field goal.
yeah. What NFL Red Zone calls the witching hour, right there.
Right.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so I don't know if you saw I was giggling a little bit just because I was thinking I bet you he goes
I can't
17.
resist.
Like you're gonna go homer the whole way.
I can't
You're
resist,
gonna go
man.
17 dubs, no losses. I don't think you'll ever come into this show and say that you think they're losing that game.
Well, so the guys last night forced me to look at the schedule and like they asked, where's the hiccup? And obviously the Bills in the middle of the
Oh yeah,
season, and it's at Buffalo. That is going to be tough.
yeah. Josh Allen, boy.
But what'll happen? Here's what's going to happen. All right, the Packers are going to go into that game. I think it's 8-1, which would be week 9 that they go in that game, and I will certainly convince myself that they'll win that game. That is absolutely what'll
Yeah, I love it.
happen.
No, you have to stay true. Stay true to yourself. I not to switch gears here, but
Yeah,
I
let's
tweeted
dive in.
this Sunday, and I said, if you're a Bears fan and you think that Sunday is a get right game and everything's going to be sunshine and daisies, you're in for a rude awakening. Because if you're
Oh,
going to tell me that Lovie Smith doesn't have his team ready to come into Chicago and
oh,
to play football, I mean, you're definitely doing yourself a disservice. I think that Lovie Smith is going to have that team ready to play. I think very rarely, if you're a U of I fan, cover your ears because that's unless he was coaching. I want to say at the pro level, right? Lovie Smith teams very rarely are unprepared. His U of I years were definitely nothing to write home
an
about.
anomaly. We'll just write that
An
off.
anomaly, exactly. But he's not. I mean, he's not a recruiter. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, Lovie
Yeah.
Smith isn't the Nick Sabans or Lincoln Rileys of the world.
Well, we saw the
He
inverse, right? Nick Saban couldn't do much in the NFL.
yeah. Two different worlds,
Yeah.
two different arenas.
Yeah.
Um, I think, Miles, that it is a tooth and nail game I think that it's a hard hitting game. I do have the Bears winning 13-10
Ooh, ugly.
against ugly game. I mean,
Ugh.
this game's going to be ugly.
Ugh.
And I think this game's going to probably have like one feature on Red Zone where they're like, hey, because I think it's going to be defense. I mean, defense is going to be the theme here. Um, I think it's David Mills and Damian Pierce and slipping. Cook, is it
Yeah,
the wide
Cook's still
receiver?
down there. Yep.
Yeah, Brandon Cooks. Um, I think that they're going to come into Chicago, and it's just going to be a black and blue game. And if anything, I think that Luke Getsy has clear skies, has an opportunity to kind of shake off that Green Bay, rust and from the Green Bay game. And he's going to call, and I know I sound like a broken record, but he's going to call a better game for Justin. I think Justin definitely loosens up a little bit. He looked really, really rigid and tight and scared. Deer and headlights look in Lambeau. I think he comes back down to earth a little bit, has a little bit more fun, moves the football. I just think that the way that these two teams play ball, I don't have it being a high scoring affair. I'd love for it to be a high scoring affair, but I do have the Bears above the Houston Texans.
What's your biggest worry in this one? What matchup here gives you the most worry?
To tell you the truth, I'm going to be fixated on JF1.
Okay.
David Mills, Damian Pierce, Brandon Cooks, they're not keeping anybody up at night.
No.
Just calling a spade a spade. I'm less concerned and I know you probably get beat up a little bit on Twitter. I don't even care if the Bears lose this game. I need Justin to look good.
Yeah.
I need him to look good because it's not Aaron Rodgers Sunday Night Football. It's the Houston Texans at Soldier Field at noon. I mean,
yeah.
If you don't look good then, if you, and especially what I want to see is in the intangibles is the bounce back category. How do you bounce back from what you can call an embarrassing loss to Green Bay? How do you bounce back from that as a franchise quarterback or as a developing franchise quarterback? Because you're either the man or you're not, right? Like you're either the man or you're not. And I think a lot of people have pointed to the Josh Allen growing pains. Josh Allen is an anomaly. Josh Allen is an anomaly. You don't go from his college career and his first 2 seasons in the NFL, which weren't fantastic, to being subhuman and just, unbelievable, right? Like Buffalo's got a stud quarterback.
Yeah. He could put the ball wherever he wants, man. It's
anywhere.
It's impressive. It's very impressive.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe Mitch Trubisky was the X factor there.
Taught him everything, didn't he?
It taught him everything he knew. But real quick note on Mitch Trubisky. I don't know if you caught this, but apparently he has plays that he can't audible out of, which is not what you want to hear out of a 6th-year quarterback. If you don't trust your 6th-year quarterback to read the defense and make a freaking call on the field to change the play, that opens up like a whole Pandora's box of like, man, what's going on with Mitch?
You're one of the defenders, man. You are very much willing to die on the hill that Mitch Trubisky is a good quarterback.
No. So listen, there's a difference between a Mitch Trubisky truther, which I'm not, and somebody who's just like, dude, I'm willing to give a benefit of the doubt that this kid has the tools to be a good quarterback.
Okay.
The news out of Pittsburgh that they don't let him check out of plays.
That's not good, man.
Is brutal.
That's good.
Brutal. It's because at that point, and I'm not even a Pittsburgh fan, it's like, well, then what are we doing, right? Like we're not developing a Mitch Trubisky. We need to be developing Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and if that's the case, then let Kenny not be able to check out of plays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, hey,
That's my argument.
what do I keep saying, man? Good QBs are good decision makers. If you are removing the decision making part of the QB's job, you're speaking all the volumes you need to.
Come on.
Yeah, that's not good, man. Not good at all. Certainly not good that somehow that got public, somebody felt the need to actually say that that's the case. So not good for Mitch.
Old
Mitchell.
Good football this. Not good for Mitch. We'll be watching some good football this weekend.
I'm excited, man. I'm optimistic. I like matchups like this. I love getting to see the Packers go take on somebody that they've had trouble with. The teams like the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Buccaneers. In the past it was the Eagles, the Cowboys. These teams that for some reason they just they always give you trouble. I shouldn't include the Cowboys in that statement because they haven't given the Packers trouble in a while. But in the previous generations they did. I'm excited. I'm excited to take on Tampa Bay. I'm win or lose on that one. I think that this week you're going to learn a lot about your team. Whether it's the Bears or the Packers. We're going to learn a lot about our teams this week and what they do. I'm excited to see, how do the Bears stack up again? You can't really, I don't know, man. You can't really know what the Bears are yet because, you beat a 49ers team, then you lose a Packers team. The Packers didn't look good before that game. There's just a lot of stuff I feel like to still be figured out.
Yeah, which makes that Niners game that much more important in the grand scheme of things because look at what's ahead, right? And you talk about quarters of the season. So we have the Texans and the Giants up next, and that's the first quarter of the season. The next 4 games: Texans, Giants, Vikings, Commanders, Patriots. I mean, that was 5 games. I wanted to throw the Patriots in there.
That's not a very intimidating stretch.
It's not intimidating, right? And I think if anything, the Vikings is one where I'm not sure the Bears win that game, but I have them beating the Texans. I think they can play with New York. And I mean, the Commanders came out and surprised everybody with
they look Lions, like they've got a legit offense.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions, they only look like they have a legit offense because the Lions made them play offense by putting up so many points up on the scoreboard. I think I texted you, right, Miles? God, don't look now. Holy smokes.
That was wild. But they also let them hang around. What do we talk about? You let teams hang around, man. You end up finding ways to lose. So, I got to talk about that last night too, with the Lions. Are they the real deal yet or not? It's like, they're getting there. You're scratching the surface. I think Dan Campbell's the right mentality at coach, but Jared Goff can only do so much. I don't think that guy is your franchise quarterback. I don't think that guy is getting you to the postseason. I could be wrong.
I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is the real deal Holyfield.
He looks like the real deal. And if anything, like a lot of people want to throw the Packers under the bus for drafting Jordan Love all those years ago. What they should do is throw the Packers front office for drafting Amari Rodgers over Amon-Ra St. Brown. Boy, does that look like a massive mistake.
Well, me and USC receivers. I mean, I'm a big fan, obviously.
Yes, sir. Rightfully so.
But I hate to see him in silver and blue. But the young man he's definitely putting his money where his mouth's at. And his mouth is running. It's running right now. But that's what makes the NFL season so unique and so special. We talk about it. They only give us a very finite, limited amount of action.
Yep.
and then we have to piece together throughout the week
What's it going to be?
what's it going to be. How about any parting? Well, how's your fantasy team doing, Miles?
Hey,
Let's
yeah,
chat
let's do
about
a fantasy check-in. My fantasy
that. Yeah.
teams, both of them are 0-2, so I am collectively 0-4 in fantasy right now.
Oh wow! All
Isn't
right, you
that
want to talk about
phenomenal?
it or?
Not really.
Okay, cool. Well,
Not really.
I don't know how, but I am 4-0 and
Woo!
2-0 in both
There
leagues.
we go.
And in one league, you're gonna crack up. I have uh, David Montgomery,
Of course.
Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, and Khalil Herbert all on the roster.
And you're
Well,
2
no,
and 0?
yeah, I'm 2-0.
What in the
So I'm
hell?
not starting any of that. I'm only no, I'm only starting David Montgomery. No, but so that actually happened, not intentionally. It was I drafted Montgomery, and then Mooney was sitting there in the mid rounds. I figured, all right, I'll take Mooney. And then in the final round, Khalil Herbert was still sticking around those last late rounds, and I wanted to handcuff Montgomery, and then somebody dropped Cole Kmet, and because I missed out on the top 5 tight ends, I'm definitely streaming tight ends at this point.
Yeah.
But right now, I am 2-0 in both of those leagues, so 4-0 total.
Yeah, fantasy is something else, man. And one of my leagues, I have Josh Allen at quarterback, and he's already put up like 90 points each week.
And you're 0-2?
Yeah, yeah. That's why I don't really want to talk about it all that much.
Holy smokes!
It's like, what's a guy got to do, man?
Yeah, you must have started like Miami's defense or something, getting negative points or something.
No, man, it's the classic case of I'm always going against the top scorer of the week. Man. It's
Oh,
like, good
geez.
God, what do we got to do to
Week
get
in and
a
week
better
out.
matchup?
Fantasy, man, I tell you. Fantasy will have you like living crazy, like waking up
Oh
at
man,
3 a.m., checking waivers. Oh, man.
just
Which I
like
think
looking
I
at your
told
phone
you
like a
this
mad
one.
person.
Somebody dropped Miles Sanders in one of my leagues.
Yeah, you did tell me that. I don't understand that move at all.
Oh my goodness! So I scooped him up. Oh, I put a claim in, and I was like, "There's no way. There's no way that he clears waivers." 'Cause I 12-man league. I think I had the 11th spot. I don't know if people just didn't realize that this individual had dropped Miles Sanders,
Probably.
and probably didn't realize it, and I got awarded that claim.
Yeah, so now it makes sense why you're 2-0. You
Yeah,
got
probably
you
played
got
with.
guys dropping,
Yeah,
RB1s, and you got a bunch of other guys not even realizing it.
typical Packer fan. You can't give me any credit.
Hell no, not in fantasy. I've
Yeah,
already submitted that fantasy comes down to how bad are the people you're playing with. That's really all that matters.
it truly
If you
is.
can find a group of just dopes who aren't paying attention, you'll be okay.
You heard it
Unfortunately,
here
I'm in
first.
2 pretty good
I'm playing
leagues.
with dopes, according to Miles, not according
I
to
don't know
me.
any of you. I don't know any of your fantasy football history, but you're all dopes because Miguel's 2-0.
Well, I think I'm nervous about that record going into week 3. I'm a dog this week, but it's all about making it to the playoffs. And I think you're still in the hunt, Miles.
Oh
You're
yeah,
still in
I'm
the
all
hunt.
right. I've had a couple of just unfortunate weeks where a couple injuries have plagued me. I did make a bad decision last week of not having Bateman started. He was on my bench and he had a nice healthy amount of points. So
Yeah,
it's kind of like our teams. Early on you got to shake off these fantasy manager cobwebs. You start figuring out how to make better decisions, and then you don't leave 47 points on the bench.
yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully our listeners are somewhere doing better than 0-2.
Yeah,
Um,
hopefully you guys are doing better than me. I'm a dope too, apparently.
Yeah, and I'm a homer, so I think I have every Bears player on my team. So
Somehow you're
um,
winning, man. I don't
yeah,
argue with it.
somehow. But I think what I'll do is I'll take some screenshots. I'll share my roster so you can have a good laugh. Um, and I'll tell you what, man, I feel my voice slipping away. I feel a big cough I've been just holding off here. So I might need to wrap this one up here in a
Hey,
little bit.
have you not been taking your immune armor capsules? Is that
You know
why?
what?
What's the deal, man?
Tell me how I can get some,
Well, I'll
Miles.
tell you what. So if I go 0-3 in fantasy, I'm going to be pounding CBD to keep me from raging about my season being over. But beyond that, at Life Leaf Remedies, we are making all sorts of natural remedies, one of which is our immune armor capsules. It's an incredible formula that's got a lot of neat ingredients in it that go beyond just vitamin C and vitamin D, which are in there and very important. But we've got cordyceps and a lot of other things in there that are great for your immune system, in addition to CBD and some other cannabinoids. So if you are taking your immune armor capsules, you are beefing up that immune system so that it can take on those heavy germs and bacteria that are about to come in with the fall season. You can't lift heavy things without getting strong first. You just can't do it. So if you got a weak, puny little immune system and you bring in some beefy germs, they're going to win every time. Y'all, I don't know what to tell you. Get your immune system in the weight room, put on some immune armor, try them out, and help yourself feel better today. And check out lifeleafremedies.com to learn more about all these different remedies we got. Sir, any last predictions for your Bears this week?
Oh, I was just tell our listeners that's where I'm headed. I'm headed to
Woo!
lifeleafremedies.com time
Let
now.
them know.
Yeah, let them know. But definitely remember if you like listening to me and Miles go back and forth, spike that like button, leave us a comment, subscribe right now, and talk about us at your next tailgate. Week 3 is here tonight. I
Here we
believe
go.
it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. We threw some shade at Mitch, but hopefully he comes out against the Browns Thursday night football.
Well,
Any
I'll be
prediction
rooting
there,
for
Miles?
him. I'm rooting for him. The Steelers by a million because the Browns suck and they're a
All right, there you
disgusting
go.
organization.
Well, let's see. George Pickens, Najee Harris, Mitch Trubisky, Chase Claypool. Hopefully have a show. I know Nick Chubb. He definitely was a fantasy manager's general manager's dream last week.
Can't
He put
deny
up
it.
I think 3 touchdowns, and he got he caught some slack from the or some flack from the Cleveland fans because he scored too soon and left the door open for a comeback. But
Sorry about
you
it.
hate to see it. You hate to see it. But with
Hate to
that being
see it.
said, Miles, I'm going to go ahead and sign off with a bear down. Bears win this weekend prediction from my camp, a 13-10 victory. Circle that, and let's keep an eye on the scoreboard because I feel like one of my predictions is going to come through this year.
Keep an eye on the scoreboard. Indeed, Packer fans, 23-20. We sneak one out in Tampa Bay, and we are singing "Go Pack, Go" all the way home.
All right. Thanks again, y'all.